And we will start with one item for presentation and proclamation.
Madam Chair, I would like to amend the agenda. I would like to make a motion to reconsider all previous items, including one of the three splash codes.
Second. Any discussion?
Was there a second?
Was there a
I
second?
seconded.
Okay.
You seconded it?
And so is this a motion to add to the agenda? Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 2. Opposed? 2.
No action, nothing happened.
Is there any reason or just explore?
Well, unless someone wants to make another motion, gets three votes.
Would you like to clarify your motion?
Well, reason I'm doing this, I agree with Gwen that the splash money is not property tax money, but to operate these things on the splash is taxpayer money. And I think that we just need to go back and we need to reconsider a lot of these things that's on the splash. That's the reason.
Should we move on today?
Unless there's another motion, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now we're moving to presentations and proclamations. Item 1, consider approval of proclamation Gunpowder Tongue honoring Spalding County resident Reginald J. Jones for his participation in historic events which advance the cause of freedom. And I'd like to ask Commissioner Holberg to please read the proclamation.
Thank you. This proclamation, I think, is particularly appropriate given that this year marks the 50th anniversary of the events that are recited in the proclamation. I ask that you all bear with me. I think the detail here is very important. Whereas into the mid-1960s, Southern state legislatures had passed and maintained a series of discriminatory requirements and practices that had disenfranchised most of the millions of African Americans across the South since the turn of the century. Whereas African American groups launched a voter registration campaign in Selma, Alabama in 1963, and finding resistance by white officials to be intractable even after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 ended legal segregation, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and activists of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference were invited to join such voter registration groups, bringing many prominent civil rights and civic leaders to Selma in January 1965. And whereas James Bevel, who was directing the Selma voting rights movement, called for a march of dramatic length from Selma to the state capital of Montgomery, and the first march took place on March 7, 1965, during which state troopers and county possemen attacked about 600 unarmed marchers with billy clubs and tear gas after they passed over the Norman Pettus Bridge and into Dallas County, Alabama, such event becoming known as Bloody Sunday. And whereas a second march took place March 9, 1965, and that night a white group beat and murdered civil rights activist James Reeb, a minister from Boston who had come to Selma to march with the second group. And whereas the third march to Montgomery started on March 21, 1965, and with Governor George Wallace refusing to protect the marchers, that President Lyndon B. Johnson committed to doing so, protected by 2,000 soldiers of the U.S. Army, 1,900 members of the Alabama National Guard under federal command, and many FBI agents and federal marshals, the marchers averaged 10 miles per day along U.S. Route 80, known in Alabama as the Jefferson Davis Highway, and the marchers arrived at the Alabama State Capitol on March 25, 1965. With thousands having joined the campaign, 25,000 people entered the capital city that day in support of voting rights. The route is memorialized as the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights Trail and is designated as a U.S. National Historic Trail. And whereas Reginald J. Jones, a resident of Spalding County, was a teenage foot soldier in the third and successful march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, and participated in establishing and memorializing historic events and places 50 years ago. And whereas in February 2015, both houses of the United States Congress voted for a resolution to award congressional gold medals to the foot soldiers of the Selma campaign. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Spalding County that this proclamation be publicly read and presented to Reginald J. Jones, and that a copy of this proclamation recognizing and commemorating Reginald J. Jones's courageous and historic contributions to the cause of freedom and liberty for all persons, to the states of Alabama and Georgia, to the United States of America, and to Spalding County, be spread upon the minutes of the proceedings of this board, and that the Board of Commissioners does hereby urge its citizenry to convey their appreciation to Reginald J. Jones for such courage and contributions. Effective June 19th and presented June 19th, 2015, Rita J. Johnson, Chairperson, William P. Wilson, Jr., County Manager, and Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that this board adopt this proclamation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0.
Could I ask Mr. Jones to come forward and receive the proclamation? Chairman.
You have an opportunity to speak if there's any words, please.
I'd just like to thank the board for this proclamation and say that I would never imagine 50 years ago a simple act of civil disobedience to try to get a simple change in the law to give my mother and people like her the ability to vote.
Very courageous man. Thank you very much. Moving on to presentations of financial statements. Item 1, consider approval of financial statements for the 12th month ended June 30th, 2015. Ms. Janet, take the statements.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Can I ask a question? I make a motion that we accept and approve the financial statements for the 12 months ended June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Citizen comments. Speakers must sign up prior to the meeting and provide their names, addresses, and topic in which they will speak on. Speakers must direct all comments to the board only. Speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to speak on their chosen topics and relate to matters pertinent to the jurisdiction of the Board of Commissioners. No questions will be asked by any of the commissioners during citizen comments. Outbursts from the audience will not be tolerated. Common courtesy and civility are expected at all times during the meeting. And as always, we will adhere to the 3 minutes. And the first person I'd like to call up is Mr. Carl Pruitt. If you would, please state your name and address, Mr. Pruitt.
Thank you. My name is Carl Pruitt. I reside at 120 Four Oaks Drive here in Griffin. Wanted to talk to you just a minute about the noise ordinance. I know the state has just a few months ago passed a new fireworks ordinance. Friday, William and I live almost next door to each other, just right down the street from me on Four Oaks. We were very lucky to have our 86-year-old neighbor that lives between us come home from Piedmont Hospital. He spent 8 days in there with 100% blockage of 2 arteries. He barely made it back home. He had 2 heart surgeries, and he got home Friday afternoon Friday night about 11 p.m., a neighbor who lives a street over in back of us began a volley of about 6 large, what I would call professional fireworks going off. You could hear a first stage go off where it kind of popped the ground, and then when it went up, it exploded and literally shook the windows. That went on until about, I guess, 11:30, 11:40 on Friday night. Then this past Saturday night, about 11:45, he started up again. This time he only fired about 3 or 4 volleys, but these were professional fireworks just like you get to hear, see, and feel at the out at the airport at 4th of July. Kind of expensive. This wasn't M80s or cherry bombs or something like that. This was high-flying kind of fireworks. Glad to see that my neighbor, 86 years old, was awake Sunday and made it through that. It shook my wife and I up. The dog got upset. I don't know. William and his family got rattled out of their beds. But I did go back there, and it seemed like there was an area on Cumberland Drive, which was probably less than 1,000 feet away from our house, that a pall of smoke was hanging low in the ground, and you could smell the burned powder. I did call Spalding County Sheriff's Department. They had Corporal Jones out there, very friendly, very nice gentleman. He was out at my house within 10 or 15 minutes, and I did preclude my phone call that this was not an emergency. Don't send anybody quickly, but they responded extremely quickly. He was very courteous, and he said, Mr. Pruitt, there's nothing I can do. They can fire as many as they want to up until midnight. I did send a letter today to State Representative David Knight and John Yates. I don't know if there's anything y'all can do here at the local level. You can't issue good common sense to people, but firing these type of explosions off in a neighborhood area just shouldn't be allowed in Spalding County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. David Dodd, if you would please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Dodd, and citizen here in the city of Griffin. I am a career-wise limited partner with Edward Jones Investments. I'm the executive director for Impact Racing Ministries, a nonprofit that serves the Fairmont community. I'm a member of the advisory board, Parks and Rec Department.
We need your physical address.
700 Woodland Drive.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, guys. I came unprepared to speak and just jotted some quick bullet points down, but I'm here to speak on behalf of Impact Racing Ministries, the Griffin Gators swim team, and just also on behalf of citizens here in town that lead lifestyles that are healthy. I know there are lots of things that have come on past SPLOST that I guess can be questioned. At the end of the day, we'd love to see an aquatic center in the city. When you look across states, you can see what amenities are available to draw productive citizens into a city. I think an aquatic center is one of those draws. I've had the opportunity to watch 4 young men and 1 young lady from our Impact Racing Ministries this past summer swim with the Griffin Gators. 5 African-American children who were excited after the first day of swim practice because they could touch the bottom and come up. It's an epidemic in our society, and the Griffin Gators with open arms brought these kids in the work we're doing there. We've got an opportunity to bring a lot more kids like that, but not only that, from an economic standpoint, we have amenities like this in our community. We're positioned very well to actually draw producers into this community. We need to broaden the tax base. There's no point in hiding from the big ugly elephant in the room. We've got big problems. So I agree, we need to rewind and look at some of the SPLOST items on the list and put a little bit more focus on lifestyle amenities and things that would attract new producers to our community if we won't change. If not, we can continue to do the same things over and over again, and we know what that is, insanity. So thus far, things haven't worked so well. We'd love to see some new things. I think if we build it, they'll come, and we'll figure out a way to pay for everything. And that's, I wrote down lots of bullet points here, but I think that is the gist of what I have to plead or ask for this afternoon on behalf of Griffin Gators, Impact Racing Ministries, and myself. and my family as an active producing family in this community. That's it.
Thank you. Darrell Williams?
I'm Darrell Williams, 834 Dusty Sap Court, Griffin, Georgia, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Mud Dogs. I suspect my reaction was the same as everybody else's. Some confusion, some anger, some disgust, some just plain being sick. And then I talked to one of my friends who was one of the volunteers that helped try to mitigate some of the situation. And he said, you know, that filth was moving from all of the insects in it. And there were rats. New emotion, fear. What kind of diseases will be spread throughout Spalding County with that kind of a situation where all that filth exists and it's infested with insects and rats? And then animal control said, you know, if we'd have had a spay and neuter ordinance a year ago, we could have stopped this before it happened. And I thought, this was A, preventable, but worse, it is B, repeatable. And right now, animal control believes that in the not too distant future, that property will be back to the 4 animals, the 4 original. And in spite of the fact that people have volunteered to pay to have those 4 animals fixed, the owners refuse to allow that to occur. So in another year or two, we're going to have Mud Dogs 2, the sequel, if we don't pass this spay and neuter ordinance. And I appreciate the open forum that we had on that and all the good comments and a lot of good reasons were given. But I have one more, and that is the health of the citizens of Spalding County depends on you ladies and gentlemen passing the spay and neuter ordinance. Thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Moving on to minutes. Consider approval of minutes for the June 15, 2015 Board of Commissioners Extraordinary Session, the June 25th, 2015 Special Called Meeting, the June 25th, 2015 Zoning Public Hearing, and the July 9th, 2015 Special Called Meeting.
Madam Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Can you approve the 9th because the vote, one of the votes was not done right?
It's coming up for
Well, let me
reconsideration.
stop and think. I mean, the purpose of the minutes is to correctly reflect what occurred there. And so I think what we can do is,
That is what occurred there, so.
yeah, that's what occurred there. So I think, yes, you can approve the minutes, although I think we may go back and add an amendment that subsequent action corrected this part of the minutes. But I think that the minutes as they exist correctly reflect what happened, good, bad, or indifferent. So I think, yes, you can approve.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Consent agenda. Item 1, consider approval of second reading ordinance 2015-04, amending Part 7, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 7, 1004 of the Code of Ordinance of Spalding County to provide for no parking on the Lakes Parkway.
Madam Chairman, if there is no conflict with any of the other board members, I'd like to request we take the consent agenda altogether.
If nobody wants one pulled out, we can go all at the same time. Okay.
Acceptable to me.
Do you want me to read these individually or one?
Just like this.
Okay, so the consent agenda, the motion to approve, second.
I said,
All those in favor? 4-0. Old business. Item 1, reconsideration of the approval of the Aquatic Center on the pay-as-you-go project list for 2015 SPOS at $4.6 million.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the approval of the Aquatic Center on pay-as-you-go project.
One second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 3, opposed? 1. Item 2, consider approval of Aquatic Center on the pay-as-you-go list for the SPOS 2015, $4.6 million.
Should that be 4.69 million?
It's 4.690.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the addition of the Aquatic Center to the 2015 SPOS list at a cost of $4,069,000, and that the location of that particular project be determined at a future date.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 3, opposed? Moving on to new business. Consider approval of an amplification permit for Stephanie Banks for a birthday party at Griffin Ridge Lodge on Saturday, July 25th, 2015, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Madam Chairman, all the departments have reviewed and recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 2, conduct a public hearing to consider the establishment of streetlights district for Sun City Peachtree Pod 37B Cobblestone.
Motion to open a public hearing for the establishment of a streetlight district for Sun City Pod 37B at Cobblestone Drive.
Second.
Okay. There are two different streetlight districts, Pod 37B and Pod 37B Cobblestone Drive. This is the one
Okay.
where we're breaking it apart.
Okay. I'll restate my motion. Make a motion to open the public hearing for the establishment of the streetlight district for Sun City Peachtree Pod 37B and Pod 37B Cobblestone Drive.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0.
You now have a public hearing again.
Would anybody like to come up and make any comments? Okay, make a motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing for establishment of streetlight district for Sun City Peachtree Pod 37B and Pod 37B Cobblestone Drive.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 3, consider approval of streetlight district for Sun City Peachtree, Pod 37B, Cobblestone Drive.
I make the motion to approve this streetlight district for Sun City Peachtree Pod 37B and Pod 37B Cobblestone Drive.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just point out that the reason this is happening is that this particular pod out there has a sort of different configuration. Cobblestone Drive is a lengthy street running generally, I believe, north-south. It has about 17 streetlights along it. There are no homes. Yet the 50 or so homes that are in that particular neighborhood pod have been assessed streetlight costs, even though they don't get any benefit from it. So by doing this, the homeowners there will pay for only the streetlights that illuminate their particular streets, and the common area, which is Cobblestone Drive, will bear the cost of those 17 streetlights. So it's necessary for property tax and billing purposes that these two streetlight districts be created.
All those in favor? 4-0. Item 4, consider approval of a contract with the Office of the Public Defender for Indigent Defense Services in Spalding County, Georgia, fiscal year 2016.
Madam Chairman, this is a contract for indigent defense. It is equal to the amount of the public defender's budget, and the state requires us to have a contract with the public defender's office for the fiscal year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 5, consider approval of the contract with Three Rivers Area Agency on Aging for Senior Nutrition Program to be provided at the senior center.
This is the new nutrition program at the senior center. Mr. Fortune has reviewed it. Ms. Garrison, the Leisure Services Department, and recommend approval.
Is this the contract we workshopped the other?
Yes, sir. Essentially, it takes all those grants and rolls them through Three Rivers for us to provide the services. Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilson, I did have a question, trying to get back to where it is. In the beginning of this agreement, it talks about referring to attachment B, and it relates to the services that are going to be provided. I'm trying to get back to attachment. No, attachment A, excuse me, it says to, in addition to providing congregate meals, we will provide exercise, physical fitness, health promotion and disease prevention group, and of course, home delivered meals and medication management. I thought we were just gonna be supplying something that needs.
The only thing that we are supplying is the congregate meals and home delivered. I believe through one of the grants, if I can find the page, it is a long agreement.
Well, I mean, because it kept referring us to this attachment at A, and so when it gets to attachment A, it doesn't really tell us specifically which is the item that because, we had not heard anything about providing the wellness. I mean, sure, the senior center is there, but we're not going to be monitoring that.
No, we will not be.
So I was, kind of wanted some clarity with that. And then the other thing was, this part of it is turned sideways, so it's always your head sideways to do it. But at the beginning of it, it talks about the areas that this contract will affect. And it says something to the effect that we will be providing services in all of those counties. And maybe I misread that. I'm trying to get my computer to go back that way. But, it's like near the first page.
Of the agreement?
I think that's simply a recital that this organization, the Three Rivers Regional Commission, services those counties. But these services will be, of course, restricted solely to Spalding County.
I think it's under scope of services, is what you're looking into.
Yeah,
Section 2.
Okay, let me see. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Services shall be provided within and respecting any or all of Three Rivers, which it talks about all the counties, as further specified in attachment A.
So, yeah, that particular thing, it looked to me like it was saying that our agreement would specifically be able to service those areas. And I wonder, what page was that you guys were on?
That's the first one, actually the second page.
Yeah, services shall be provided within and respecting any or all of the Three Rivers regions. So that's the part, why is it any or all? So I'm not real sure why.
I think it's a generic contract that they use, but
Well, and then see, that's what kind of got me messed up with attachment A, because it says we'll do all those, we'll perform and carry out in a proper manner all the work and services described in attachment A. And then in attachment A, you got these 5 things that it says that we're doing. It's not saying that it's us. I would have rather them just line through the stuff that didn't refer to us, but, I'm just want to make sure that we're not agreeing to anything that we didn't
Outside
say we
Spalding
want to
County.
do. Or that they're expecting us to provide any services that
So
we.
is there any way maybe later, Mr. Porter, we can go back and maybe review that section?
Well, yes, of course, I mean, it clearly indicates that we're the provider, and by law, we couldn't spend money outside of Spalding County, so
Well, I mean,
I don't disagree with what Gwen's saying. It got that in there, and it probably is one of their boilerplate contracts with that language in there. The suggestion is that we approve this subject to corrective language which clearly indicates that this money will be spent only in Spalding County to provide meals, just to obviate, to take out any possible confusion. I'm sure this contract they use over and over, and it may only apply to that business about counseling people on their diet and providing them with exercise. I don't-
well, and see, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if that's something that they were doing anyway, because I mean, I kind of, people used to get there at 8 o'clock in the morning and they'd leave 1 or 2 in the afternoon after lunch. So, what's happening between all that time before the meal is served? So I don't know if they were providing dietary information, or certainly I would be a little bit leery about medication management.
I think those are all services that are provided based on this federal grant that they are provided from USDA.
So.
They're not necessarily provided by us.
No, they're not provided by us, these are provided by the Three Rivers RC&D, Regional Commission.
Okay, but where are they gonna be provided and why is it in our contract? That's what I'm saying.
I think they're like they said, they're not leaving us. Like I said, even though we're gonna handle the nutrition side of things, they will still be there, and they will still be, the federal money will still be filtering through the regional commission.
But who
So they-
is they?
They use the regional commission, that.
Area Agency on Aging, remember how Lanier talked about that? Area Agency on Aging is a division of Three Rivers that handles these other things that they do.
And
Other
they're gonna be
services.
located in the senior center?
No, but they will be interacting with the participants.
Okay.
So when let's say you sign up for Meals on Wheels, we actually go out and there's paperwork involved, and there's some counseling of sort that they do with these individuals, so that the Meals on Wheels program, we want to ensure that they're not only getting the nutrition, but they're also carrying that as part of the healthy lifestyle. And so those citizens may not ever come into the senior center, but we want to make sure that they are receiving the same amount of care that our citizens that come into.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking these questions because I would feel a lot more comfortable if our particular part of this is more clearly stated, that we will provide the congregate meals and meals to other seniors, at cost or whatever cost. I think it states further down within Spalding County, and that we will perform the services that are related directly to the meals.
Suggestion, you
Sure.
could possibly table this to your next Thursday night zoning, which is the effective date of this contract, August 1.
Can that work, William?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if y'all don't. mind.
Which is the 23rd.
Probably need to
I-
23rd.
just like some clear language.
Wait a minute.
And we can actually, ma'am,
The zoning meeting's the 23rd?
yeah, this Thursday.
So will they have to submit us, if we say that we want some different language, will they have to submit something back to us and?
What we could do, we could line out what we consider objectionable language and add to it. It'd be, quote, a counter proposal we act on Thursday and ship it back to them. It's not going to make any meaningful change as far as they're concerned. They shouldn't have a problem with it.
So, but it's not going to hinder us from starting the service on August the 1st, is what I was saying.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then, if that's the case, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to make a motion to table this until we can get the language cleared up in this contract.
if we're gonna do it next Thursday, this Thursday, can we do it at 5:30 before we have our zoning meeting?
Well, we can add it as an item during the zoning meeting if you'd like.
It should take 30 seconds.
Well, that's fine.
We've only got 3 items on there, it's not a lot.
Okay.
We've got a motion to table.
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 6, consider request from magistrate court to purchase a 2016 Ford Escape in the amount of $19,212.26. Low bid from Speedway Ford.
The car that they were driving was a 2004 Ford Taurus. It was totaled in an accident that was not our employee's fault. So we and the other person did not have insurance, of course. So the vehicle was totaled. We're asking that you approve this. We'll do a 3-year lease purchase like we do on all vehicles. And I'll bring to you later in the year an ordinance amendment to add the first year's lease purchase to the fiscal year 2016 budget. But they're without a car right now. 2 constables and 1 car. Not very efficient.
So we are going to make a claim under we do have uninsured motorist.
Yes, sir, we do. Yes, sir.
And we're making
We're making the claim on that.
who's our carrier?
No, that's mine. I was going to say Central, but that's my insurance because I just paid it. I am not sure who our carrier is. Our local agent is Millennium of Griffin, but I'm not sure who the audio carrier is.
Okay, all right.
We have a $1,000 deductible, and they're going to pay us probably around.
I know, but, well, exactly.
$3,000 for the car.
But
I mean, that car's worth about $400.
We're at about 3,000, so about 2,000 bucks they'll pay us.
It's a Ford.
yeah, okay.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2016 Ford Escape in the amount of $19,212.46. Low bid from Speedway Ford.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 7, consider request from Griffin Main Street for the use of fund balance accumulated over the past several years to assist in maintaining their accreditation with the Georgia Main Street program.
Madam Chairman, I think Daoud is here.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, Madam Chairman. Was there any questions? Oh, pretty straightforward.
Well, if you could just give us a short version of how the amount of funds that you were determined that were there, just for the public to know where these funds came from.
These were funds that had accumulated over the last several years from when the city of Griffin started the process when they took over the Main Street program per se, where the director directly employed by the city, where in the past they were funded through Spalding County, some of the hotel motel tax, downtown council, and other private groups and fundraisers that paid for that. And once the city took it over, they began to ask for itemized areas what the funds were going to be going to. And in doing so, that would be taking place, but in the end, the program manager, that's what it was called, now they're called director, submit the same form to the county. Prior to then, the county would receive the application requesting funds from the Main Street group for operations, and they have been going on that way for many, many years. But once the city asked for that particular information from the director at that time ended up submitting the same thing back to the county. Therefore, the county started setting all these, say, banners for wayfinding, beautification, for historic preservation-related things. And what would happen, all the money wouldn't be spent in those various categories, and it would roll over. The city doesn't carry over funds, but these funds would end up being carried over, and the director, that was Ms. Curtis Braggs, and then we had Vicky Hyatt for a very short period of time now, Ms. Kendall Wood. And what has happened, those funds, unbeknownst to us, they were still there, and we will have special projects when we did the Pocket Six, the restrooms, the storage facilities, planners, banners. There's just a myriad of things that would have accumulated over the last several years. And it was brought to our attention by the city finance department. Said, what are you doing with these, what are you gonna be doing with these funds? And once that was brought to our attention, then we started doing research, and then when we found out that was the money there. And so instead of just acting on our own discretion, we felt obligated to come back to the county, since that's where the money came from, to get approval from you all there. We would like for these monies to go back the way they previously were done for operations purposes. And so therefore, that's why I'm here tonight.
One of the main things, the Griffin Main Street has always requested that their budget be paid 100% to them, so we've paid them up front. And like he says, they may have gotten better bids or decided to order 20 instead of 30, and over the years, they've accumulated this fund balance. They want to use this fund balance to help with their accreditation, and you'll see in the paperwork that they sent you about the accreditation that there's various and sundry different criteria that is used for accreditation. The one in particular that they're interested in, because that's the one they're unable to meet at this time, is the accreditation number 7. You need a total of, I think, 8 points there, and they're only able to obtain 6. They're requesting this money for the use of supplementing the salary in order to meet number 1 of that staff management and development criteria. Main Street, the Georgia Main Street program is mandating a minimum salary, I love this, $46,500. The employee is paid by the city of Griffin, and the city of Griffin has a pay classification plan much like the county does, and Mr. Smith is unable to accommodate that request because that would throw his pay and classification schedule out the door. So what they're asking is utilization for this money for a supplement and or car allowance or whatever for the employee in order to meet that, in order to keep their accreditation, and that's what they're asking. I don't know, Dode and I haven't talked about, I mean, the 26,000 that they've got would last, I'm not sure how much, if I can find in here, how much it would be per year. Dode, do you have that number?
Yes, but we have been in touch with DCA also, Williams Department of Community Affairs, and they are willing to work with us even if we don't reach the amount this particular year. And because we are requesting that our request in the future go back to the way we did it before for operational purposes. That way it could be spread out in different areas. And these, once again, for the commissioners that may not be aware, these are hotel motel dollars. These are dollars that have already been submitted to Main Street over the last several years. We're not asking for any new money. We're just wanting to have access to the money that's already there so we can use it in these areas so we can maintain our accreditation. That's what we're asking.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
what's gonna happen when that money's used up, though, and the city's not gonna
Well,
have
there
that
again,
salary based in that?
if we're doing it, as we said before, for operational purposes, when we do our annual request, we feel that we will have ourselves covered when we do it that way.
In your budget?
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request from Main Street to have permission to use the, I think it was $26,000 that remained from excess from projects that they were able to value engineer in the past to allow them to be able to keep their accreditation with Main Street, with the Main Street program.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, William, for more detailed explanation. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Item 8, consider request from the Spalding County Office of Homeland Security to apply for the fiscal year 2015 Emergency Management Performance Grant, 2015 Response Recovery Competitive Award application in the amount of $7,500 to purchase a massaging system for the 911 center.
Massage.
That's what-
That is what
I wanted to-
that is what the agenda first said, but we noticed that today and corrected that scrivener's error, but it is a messaging system. And Assistant Chief Pope
Can we all use that?
is here to
We have a license.
answer any questions you may have. We do have the monies required for the match in our budget, and we recommend approval.
Not with $851 I match, right?
Yes.
That's all the match is?
Yeah. I make a motion to approve the Homeland Security FY 2000 Emergency Management Performance Grant, amount of $7,500 purchase a system. I'm gonna say system. Because I don't want you to give me a massage, I can tell you that. RJ.
Second it.
Any discussion?
I want to just ask Glenn, how is the messaging system going to work for 911?
It's a software that 911 can utilize, and what it'll do is it'll automatically work in conjunction with their dispatchers that will notify through text or email to predetermined administrators of different departments throughout the county, and it frees up their dispatchers so they won't have to actually be on the phone.
Trying to notify everybody.
And it can give up to dates, like fire control or whatever.
Does this have any, does it network with the CAD that we're looking to do? The B911 upgrades that we were planning to do, when we get the pass-through spot?
Yes.
It
Yes,
does work?
it'll integrate with the new CAD and 911 system, yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all I had to ask.
More discussion, all those in favor? 4-0. Item 9, consider appointment to the McIntosh Trail Community Services Board to fill the unexpired term of Joe Ward Jr. to expire December 31st, 2016.
Madam Chairman, you have a letter from McIntosh, you actually have two letters from McIntosh Trail. One of those indicating that they will be removing Joe Ward Jr. for lack of attendance, and one of those stating that Smokey Page would like to serve the unexpired term of Joe Ward Jr. to expire December 31, 2016.
Motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Smokey Page to the McIntosh Trail Community Service Board position previously held by Mr. Joe Ward Jr. with a term to expire December 31st, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Item 10, consider request for the Park and Recreation Advisory Commission to appropriate an additional $10,000 to the Park and Recreation fiscal year 2016 budget for the purpose of hiring an intern.
I'll let Commissioner Flowers Taylor address that because she brought it up at the Park and Rec Advisory Commission meeting.
I don't see how nobody from Park and Rec showed up and tried to help me out. All right, well, we discussed at length what it is that Park and Rec can do to better market all the amenities that we have in the county. At this point, we don't advertise that the senior center is available for rent, or that we have spacing for conferencing, that we have spillover space in, at the county extension office. We don't advertise about any of our exercise programs. And we feel that for the programs that we have, where people come in and pay for them, it will be to our advantage to have someone who has some marketing skills preferably a student from through the ACCG internship program who is majoring in marketing to come in and help us with not only just the web page, but be the community person to go out and seek advertisement or come up with a way that we can advertise all of our amenities that we have. We don't advertise the fact that we have pavilions to rent. So we have amenities that we can make money on, but we don't have a business plan for how we can increase the amount of money that the county gets as revenue for usage of these items. So that was the purpose of this discussion, and that $10,000 was, I think, based on what the ACCG intern generally gets paid as a paid intern for either a full year. And I'm not real sure, but I think their internship is 6 months, is it, William? For an ACCG intern?
Actually, it's 3 months, and the one for the fall has already closed, and they have appointed those. So what I'm going to ask that you consider is recommending applying for one for the winter semester and get your application in. I think they'll be accepting applications in August or September for the winter semester. And actually, they pay 250 hours, $10 an hour, and all we have to do is provide the FICA tax and things like that. So if we're able to get one through ACCG, it's a good deal. And we might be able to get a couple, you know, but we've been successful in getting one. We might be able to get two, depending on how many they have applied for the program.
Well, we think that in terms of the money spent, I mean, I know that I don't know that Gordon has a marketing program, but I know there are other colleges in this area that might be able to help facilitate that. But we just think that it's so important for us to have a business plan about how we're going to increase the revenue that we're getting to get the maximum out of all of the recreation facilities that we have that we can lease out. I was telling Kelly, when somebody comes to rent like a pavilion, like this past weekend, there were 2 pavilions at Wyoming Park. We don't get an idea about how many people are going to be there. There's 2 restrooms right there together between 2 pavilions. If you got 300 or 400 people, those restrooms are not going to accommodate them. But if we advertised that we had restrooms that you could lease along with your pavilion, our portables, that would be still another way for us to generate income. So just someone, I know that Kelly and TJ and them have their hands full, that if we have a student that can come in who could concentrate just on the marketing aspect of the areas that we want to market. So that was the nature of this request. So I guess, I mean, I'm not real sure. You say that if at 250 hours for $10 an hour, that is what we're required to pay the intern?
No, that's what ACCG grants us through a grant. Now, we can do more than that if we want to pay $12 an hour or something like that. Or if we want more than one, something like that, it's $2,500
Per intern?
per intern. So, and that's ACCG. All we have to pay is the fringes, which right now are workers' comp and FICA tax. So,
Well, if that's the case, then I would like to just make a motion to table this request until we find out if we're going to be able to pull in.
may I recommend that you make a motion that you approve applying for at least one, probably 2 inmates for the winter semester. I'm sorry.
I know what it said, I know what it said.
You gotta go to ACCG, go to.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay, I understand. So I would like to just make a motion based on a request from Park and Rec for administration to apply to ACCG for 2 interns for the winter season to help us with our Park and Rec marketing.
Any discussion? Mr. Miller?
I'm not against these people coming in. To me, they don't know anything about Spalding County. They're gonna be here for a short period of time, even though it's not, the $10,000, the fringe benefits is one thing, but somebody like Kelly or Eric, to me, could work more on this thing without even bringing anybody in. If you get a, doesn't accept the fringe benefits, I don't have a problem. We gotta pay somebody, I disagree with that, because we got Eric, we didn't have an assistant county manager, hey, we got one now, he could work with Kelly and them, they could sit down and work on this thing, instead of paying two people. We have to pay for the second person, if it's not approved.
And of course, with the application, I would think we would like to have someone that probably has a background, market, you know, that
Yes.
has. you know,
Just to develop a
skills.
plan, so.
I mean, that
They
is
still know, they still need to know something about
Sure,
Spalding
they do,
County.
they know.
So, you know, if they don't live here, they just,
It won't be
like in a
difficult.
needle out of a haystack.
Well, Commissioner Miller, the thing is that there will be students and they will be graded on their performance. So part of their job will be to go out and know the community before they get here, to come and find out who we are, what size we are, what we have, what we don't have going on, so that whatever plan they can help us to come up with, it's going to be their job to go and make contact with businesses, going to printing companies and seeing what the options are for us, or how we can best do what we're going to do. So, I mean, that's part of their studies. That's why we're asking for an intern to do it. So I don't think anybody's going to come here and not want to get a good grade. You know,
Well, my thing is, though, 3 months is not very long to research a county. You know, to me, that time's gonna be up time they really find out everything.
Well, and it can be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't submit a request for them to be here you know, the next quarter, or I'm not sure if it's semester, 90 days. Semester is 4 or 5 months, isn't it?
Well, you said fall quarter and 1 quarter, so that's
Falls,
3 months.
yeah, I think
The
it's semesters of 4.
So like 4
or 5.
months. So, I mean, that's, but I mean, I think just being able to look at it, because that's a big area. Marketing's a big area that ACCG has, and I think that, you know, their instructors as well as the people with ACCG will be interested in what skills they have to offer, and they have a resource to do that too. So, I can understand your concern, but I just think at the end of the day, we need to try to advance the potential for us to gain revenues from the assets that we have already.
Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Report of the county manager.
Yes, ma'am. Last Monday, we had 4-H Youth and Governance, and Commissioner Hallbaker came in, and we had a great time with the kids at 4-H. We had a mock commission meeting, and just enjoyed our time with the kids, told them all about Spalding County and what we do and things like that. It's a multi-day, 1-week program, and had a lot of great kids, I think 21 kids. Last Tuesday was the grand opening of Otsuka Chemical America, and missed quite an event there. That is a fantastic plant. If you have a chance, go out there and ask for a tour. It's amazing how electronic that plant is and what all they can do from their control center, and how they can see the entire facility and run that plant from that one room inside that facility. Public transportation update. Right at 5:40 today, I got an update from Lanier Boatwright that says that the Three Rivers Regional Commission is still working with GDOT to restore full public transit service to our 6-county area. Currently, we are providing limited service in the region with the available buses we have in Butts, Lamar, Meriwether, Pike, Spalding, and Upson. Our transit buses are provided by GDOT, and several of our new replacement buses have not arrived yet. Some of the older models awaiting replacement have experienced repeated issues with their air conditioning, and they have sent them for servicing. The buses are customized per the state requirements, and detailed air conditioning work has to be performed by the vendor. They're working with DOT to bring in spare buses for short-term relief and repair on the AC buses that they can put back into service. They'll keep us updated, and we'll try to make every attempt to transport citizens that are working 24/7 to get the fleet back to normal. If you have any questions, call Robert Hyatt. But I wanted to let you know the update on that. Commissioner Flowers Taylor, you had a question today about the escapee protocol. Essentially, our officers, and we have a contract with the Department of Correction that states the county is responsible for the care and custody of inmates housed at our facility. This requires all correctional staff to be post-certified with the state of Georgia. The certification gives the correctional officer statewide police powers, same as the sheriff, in the supervision and arrest powers that pertain to inmate custody. This allows our correctional officers to transport inmates to other county facilities and state facilities, and gives them authority to search and apprehend inmates that escape from our custody. Therefore, the correctional officers at the Spalding County CI and correctional officers at other departments who have that post-certification can be utilized anywhere in the state of Georgia to apprehend an escapee.
Thank you.
So, and standard policy and procedure for our correctional institution and Department of Corrections is when we have an escape reported, the officers in charge of that detail are to quickly finish and get to a stopping point, take their inmates back to the correctional institution, and then report to the area where the inmate escaped and begin to find a search pattern for that inmate. So, we did have an escapee last week. He was caught in about 7 hours. I want to thank everyone involved, both our people and Henry County Police Department, Henry County Sheriff's Department, Henry County Administration. They had multiple officers on the scene and assisted us in apprehension of the gentleman who is now back in the Georgia Diagnostic and Classification Center. Tomorrow night, we will be doing our first switch over to 800 megahertz phase 2. So we're looking forward to getting that behind us and making sure all the radios are working, but it's going to happen roughly around 11:30 midnight tomorrow night. So look forward to that. Commissioner Flowers Taylor, Commissioner Miller, and Chairman Johnson, Mr. Mosley, and I went to a meeting at Griffin First Assembly. It was about DSP-2, Discovering Soldiers' Potential. Heard a program out there about DSP-2 and all of the things that they're doing with our soldiers coming back and coming back home, and how they're working with them with a higher calling and other institutions to get them back into the system and into the workforce, and providing services, making sure they're getting all the services that they are entitled to for their service. So we are in the process. There's a facility, the last non-governmental facility at the Cook Shopping Center was a beauty shop. That beauty shop vacated the first of the year. That is where we had originally talked about putting our, for lack of a better term, dock in the box, dock in the computer for the employees. Terry Colling, who is our election supervisor, came to me and said, while that's vacant, why don't y'all consider moving veterans down there, because the location of veterans is hard for some veterans to get in and out of that building, because it is at an incline where veterans is, and where the beauty salon was, it's flat and has a handicap ramp right in front and everything. So I spoke with the local folks here and with the state, and they're amenable to moving. I have not spoken with them about securing office space for DSP-2 at that location as well, but I'm hoping that they'll be amenable to that, especially since we essentially provide that office to them at little to no cost. And it would be great to have all the veteran services consolidated into one location. So with the board's permission, I'd like to approach Veteran Services about that and tell them that we'll remodel the office and make a spot for DSP2 as well in that office so that all the veterans can have a one-stop shop to get their veterans benefits and then for these folks to help them with any other problems that they have. And that's all I have.
Very good. All right, report of commissioners, Commissioner Hallbaker.
First, I would like to say happy birthday to Chairman Johnson and Commissioner Gwen Flowers-Taylor. Somebody told me that one of y'all was 28 and one of y'all was 29, I just can't remember which. But happy birthday and stay gorgeous.
Thank you.
On a less happier note, since we last officially met, other than for workshops and the SPLOST vote, of course, on June 17th, we had a terrible shooting at the Charleston Church, and then the Chattanooga shooting in which 4 Marines and a Navy sailor died this past Thursday. And I don't know what the answer to all that is, but I think it actually involves more arms and protection rather than less. That's just my opinion. I have nothing further.
Bishop Flowers-Taylor.
Just following up on what you said, saw a man and his wife, younger guy, and his wife and 2 kids, and I was either coming out of a store or a restaurant and they were going in, and I thought, well, what a neat little American-looking family they were. And the guy had on a t-shirt, but as he walked in, I could see that he had like a 9mm or something, I don't know that much about guns, but it was big, on his, hooked to his clothes. But it was covered with a t-shirt. And, aside from the fact that I hope he's not the nut, I would feel comfortable going in the same building with somebody, because you know that if somebody starts doing crazy stuff, if somebody has a weapon, they're gonna keep them from doing something. So I'm almost to the point now, if you don't protect yourself, especially in our state, the way that anybody can get a weapon and nobody's really checking, it won't be pretty. But yeah, that was very, very sad that those military guys were executed is what I call it. And I'm like you, I don't know what the answer is. You don't ever know how to pick that. My answer to everything is you don't leave here till God calls you. But you still just have to wonder at the irony of all of this and the amount of illness and mental illness that we have that's going unchecked in our country, and how much emphasis that we put on so much other stuff and not on these folks that are sick. William, I am so happy about what you were saying about DSP2. For anybody who wasn't at that meeting, I think that it's awesome that this organization is here. As a veteran, I've gone to the VA office and tried to apply for benefits, and they put your name in, your social security number, and then they give you like a gazillion papers to fill out. And they ask you stuff that you don't know if you got out of service 30 years ago. So, a lot of people just sit the stuff over to the side and they never apply. And what DSP2 does is that they walk you through the paperwork. They help you go back and get your records. They help you find housing. And a large amount of the homeless population that we have in Spalding County are veterans. So this will be an opportunity not only just to pick the papers up in the VA office, but to have somebody to help you to fill them out. And I think that will go a long way. In part of her program, she also has the ability to take veterans if they meet this certain criteria and take them to Fort Mac, where they have a veterans rehab facility where you can stay anywhere from 90 days to 6 months for job searches and all of this. So this is something that we need in the community, and something that I think will be really good for us. So I'm really happy to hear that there's potential for that. I went to the swim meet on Friday. I could not go on Saturday. I was too dehydrated. As hot as it was, those kids had such fun. And it was pretty much like a little tent city, but everybody knows how hot it was. And the pavement at the pool was so hot, they actually had to have somebody hosing it down and putting down towels for the kids to stand on while they were waiting for their heat. I mean, it was hot. So, but I didn't hear any kids, mostly adults, complaining about the weather. That was one of them. I had a fan, not just this fan, I had an electric fan and a cooler of ice, but I think the Griffin Gators did really well, and see so many small kids that are swimming. It's just amazing to me that, you know, they get in the water, they're not afraid, and they're just having such a good time doing it. Even if it takes them a long time to get there, they still finish it. So I think that, you know, just like 4-H, that kind of activity is good for our kids in the community because they look forward to doing that, and they, you know they got to do X, Y, Z to be able to do that. And I thank the Griffin Gators for coming off the hip and sponsoring those kids to let them be exposed to swimming and athletics that they probably wouldn't have normally been exposed to. I know that we haven't really had a lot of time. We've been having a lot of meetings, but I hope that maybe in late August we can at least start back having a workshop to deal with substandard housing. The guy talked about the mud city or the dog city. The first 2 days I couldn't even open the email because I was just scared to look at what was on there. And after Eric sent us a message saying that they were cleaning it up, I opened it up and it was just disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. The animals didn't have any kind of cover on them. And I mean, I'm just thinking, you're stuck in one place and the sun's beating down on you, you don't have water, you're living in filth, feces. You know, what kind of person lets that happen? And we don't really have anything to cover that, but I think our substandard housing ordinance would have dealt with that to some degree. So I would like to see for us if we can around sometime in late August or September, whenever we can get a chance to go back and let's address that. And I think what we were going to discuss was how it was going to be adjudicated, how we were going to have code enforcement to enforce it. So I just think that may be one of the answers to those kind of complaints. And just pray that when that person makes it to court, they don't come out happy. Also, I know that we haven't had the spay-neuter ordinance come back up. We did have the workshop on it, which we thought was very, very informative. I can't remember because we've had so many meetings what the other things were that we needed information on, but it would be nice to have an update on where we are with that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Miller?
Okay. Biggest thing I want to talk about is the splash. I went back through all the notes on paperwork that we got. I want you to know, I'm not against a swim center. I'm against something that's not going to pay for itself. And you sit there and you look at $8 for a kid to swim. I don't know how many people in Spalding County can pay $8 to go swim. It's just, I think the swimming is good. I think the Gators do a good job. Why they didn't talk to the high school below me. The other thing is, if they did talk to the high schools, they're probably not going to pay us anything because we use their facilities. They're going to say it's a swap out. So, you know, we're going to figure that $12,000. If they pay it, I'd be greatly surprised. And I'd really be hard for me to ask them for it because we do use their gyms and stuff. They don't charge us anything for it. And then, you know, there's a lot of things on the splash that I've read about, and I just can't see where the taxpayers can fund putting air conditioning in gyms that are not built for air conditioning. You're talking about $12,000 a year just to air condition one gym extra. I don't think you'll do it for $12,000. I think that's one reason I brought this up, is I think everybody, we need to go back and look at this list before we do, because there's things on there that need to be passed. But there's things on that that the taxpayers are not going to vote for. And when they do that, they're going to vote everything out. The swimming pool, I think it'd be great for Spalding County, but the taxpayers can't fund it. And you sit here and tell me that people, if you want to pay $8 to go swimming, then I won't know where they're at. And we're sure not going to take it. I can't sit here and take taxpayers' money and let people come swim for nothing. We give the city $600 2 times a year. So where's this money gonna come from? And you ain't talking about, $2 to swim at City Park. Well, $5,000-6,000 every quarter. I mean, before July the 1st and after, it's just a drop in the bucket for somebody to go swimming. And you don't think you're gonna feel bad. Just stand out there and watch your kid because they can't afford to go in there. That's gonna be worse. So I think you need to sit back and think about the whole picture of it, things that would be good for Spalding County, the things that would save taxpayers in Spalding County money. And it's got to be a total thing. But, you know, everybody says that the pool was one thing that knocked it out the last time. Between that and the airport, taking that out of the rights of the people to be able to vote on it. But you got to realize in 3 years, we got to start making payments on that airport. That's $300,000 a year at least. We got to pay to help run the airport. We got to make payments on the walking trail. We got to make payments on the sheriff's hangar. Ain't none of that stuff on there. We also got one more tower we're still going to be keeping up every year, if it passes, which is about $4,500 a month. I mean, the county is not going to get in place, and we've also promised the county employees a lot. Well, I don't see any of that coming if all this stuff's going to come up. I just think it's something that people of Spalding County need to be made very aware of what's going to happen. And I know there's a millage decrease in it, but it don't take long to eat that millage decrease up. That's all I think.
Speaking on cost, I'm glad that we've pretty much got the list pretty much solidified, I guess, as far as what projects are going to be on there. And in speaking so, I received a pleasantly call from Doug Amin, who is actually here, who has volunteered to actually be the chairman for the SPLOST committee. So I'm sure that he will, I know there's not a whole lot that we can actually do as officials to, for or against it, but, you know, it's good to know we have someone there that actually can get the committee together and go with it and explain, you know, what these areas are, these projects are, and what it does mean to the community. So with that, thank you, Don, for your volunteerism. And that's all I have.
Madam Chairman, since we're talking about SPLOST for a second, I want to let you know the time frame. We talked with Kenyon Spalding and Todd Barnes with Raymond James this morning. We're preparing Floyd Newton is preparing the intergovernmental agreement. We hope to have the first draft tomorrow. The City of Griffin has a meeting on July the 28th where they will approve it, hopefully. Then later that week, we'll get Orchard Hill and Sunnyside to approve it. It will be on our agenda for approval on August the 3rd, along with a resolution calling for the election. Then on August the 4th, the Board of Elections will meet and issue the call for the election, and we will be essentially finished at that point. But there's a lot of things that have to be done staff-wise between now and then. A couple of other things I wanted to get with you. I spoke with Kenny Smith this afternoon and asked if he thought the city would have a problem with it. The City of Orchard Hill and the City of Sunnyside, those are relatively small amounts, $400,000, $300,000. In order to keep record keeping and things to a minimum, would anyone have a problem? The first 2 months of collection, we would like to pay into the debt service account for both the city and the county the interest accrued for the interest that will be payable in July, and then take those remaining funds and split them between Orchard Hill and Sunnyside, get them their money up front since it's a small amount compared to the other two, so that the checks from then on will just be divided between the city and county, and it'll make less accounting for us to have to do, and it's less than $700,000 between the both of them. Do y'all have any real problem with that? It just gives them their money up front, and it simplifies our accounting rather than spreading teeny amounts over 6 years. You can imagine how much over 72 months, $300,000 would be, $5,000 a month, it's not really worth it's more in accounting than it is in anything else. Also, we are going to, I'm recommending, and Todd is also recommending, that we issue our bonds and pay interest only for the first 3 years. This will allow us to accumulate roughly $4 million per year towards the pay-as-you-go projects, so that we really don't have to wait until the physical end for the pay-as-you-go. And that's all calculated in the interest costs and everything I've given you. We'll have the final numbers later this week in that intergovernmental agreement, but that's something new that we're doing. Historically, we've spread the interest and the payments over the 6 years of the SPLOST, and it delays those pay-as-you-go things. So we're trying to structure it a little bit differently so that we can do both the bonded things and some of the pay-as-you-go things as you go. Because one of the problems we always hear is, when are you going to get to my project? When are you going to get to my project? And that'll help us to fund some of the pay-as-you-go quicker than previously. Any problems with that? Okay? That's what we'll be proposing in the intergovernmental agreement. That's all. And we do have a request for an executive session, very short, very sweet.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Further to discuss future acquisition of real estate.
To discuss future acquisition of real estate.
All those in favor?
Did we vote for it?
I said all those in favor.